We're here this evening for the application of Ignatius Machuku. Is that close? Who has filed an application with the board dated February 11, 2015, seeking a variance from the terms of Section 6C3 of Chapter 10 of the zoning bylaws of the town of Milton, so as to build a 16 by 25 by 2-story addition with a 5-foot by 25-foot open deck to the rear of the existing single-family residence located at 42 Hudson Street, Milton, which is located in the Residence C district. Said proposed addition is set back 14.3 feet from the left side property line, whereas Section 6.C.3 requires a minimum distance of 20 feet from a side property line when that line abuts an intersecting street. All this is set forth in the application and the plans that are on file with the board, and all of which is open to public inspection. My name is Brian Hurley. I'm acting chairman of the board this evening. With me to my left is Nicholas Gray, who's a board member, and on my right, Emmanuel Alves, also a board member, and together the three of us comprise the Zoning Board of Appeals. In terms of the record that we have, written record that we have presently before us, we have the application that is apparently dated January 20th, 2015. Attached to that application is a letter dated January 20th, 2015 from Marion V. McKettrick, attorney at law, representing the applicant. We also have a, looks like a sketch plan by Antonino Land Surveyors, Inc., showing the location on the lot of the proposed addition. We have a plan of land of Blue Hill Terrace dated May 1st, 1893. That was attached, I believe, to Mrs. McKettrick's letter. We have a letter from the building inspector or the building commissioner, Joseph Prondak, to the applicant, setting forth the reasons for the denial of his proposal to build this addition and advising the applicant of his right to seek variance relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I guess that's what we have in front of us. There's also one other letter from Mrs. McKettrick dated February 26, 2015. The essence of that letter was to grant the board an extension to hold a hearing on the application for the variance. Under the statute, we would have been required to hold that public hearing by March 26, 2015. But apparently Mrs. McKettrick was kind enough to agree to a 1-month extension so as to permit the hearing to begin no later than April 26, 2015, and here we are this evening on April 7th. So that's the material that's before the board. It's the practice and procedure of the board that we hear from the applicant first, and counsel, if they choose to. The purpose of that is to explain the plans in a way that would allow people in the audience to understand what was being proposed. When that presentation is finished, we typically ask people if they have questions of the applicant to present those questions to the board, and then finally, once that process is complete, we would ask people who have any opposition to the application to speak. So, with that preface, I invite the applicant to come up and sit at the table close to the microphone. Mrs. McKettrick, if you'd like to join them.
You can both come up and sit if you'd like.
Am I correct, Mrs. McKettrick, that there are no sort of building plans?
No, we did bring some sketch plans with us tonight.
Okay, great.
I did ask the applicants, they're just preliminary, but this is one sheet. I also have in addition some signatures from 3 neighbors whom they were actually able to contact to get a written response. And this is just a sketch that has some others.
So Mrs. McKettrick has handed up this evening a neighbor's consent form dated April 1st, 2015. It looks to be signed by 3 people. George Dunelan, looks like it's Dunelan at 46 Hudson Street. Richard Venable at 8 Essex Road, and Maureen McGee Quinn at 39 Hudson Street. In addition, we have a one-page sheet of elevations by KMW Consulting dated December 2nd, 2013, showing elevations of the proposed addition. Okay, Mrs. McKetrick?
Thank you. In addition to what you have before you, I have just a really, it's fairly repetitious of what I already gave you, but in back of this is the assessor's plan. Might be helpful to you because so if you flip through this, you'll see this in the back of what I'm providing, and it shows you a picture of the house
Okay.
as it exists now. So the Machucos are on a very small lot, as you can see from the old plan from 1898. It's less than 5,000 square feet. It is a valid pre-existing non-conforming lot. Most of the lots in this area were developed early before zoning in 1938. And one of the interesting wrinkles of this particular site is that it's on a corner of Essex Road and Hudson Street. But Essex Road was never completed. So even though it's on a corner, it's actually just on a driveway. And the connecting part of Essex Road is just woods. It's reverted to the owners on each side. And instead, Blue Hill Terrace Street many years ago was completed and goes out now, as you're probably all aware, goes out to Blue Hill Ave. So even though this lot is technically a corner lot and the clearance requirement is 20 feet on the side, that side is a driveway. It's not paved. It is legally, the town is responsible for plowing it, although apparently they forget most of the time. But there is no traffic. The only traffic is the driveway entrance to 8 Essex Road and the driveway entrance to the Norchuko's house. And the applicants have spoken to their neighbors. Some of them have given written assent. Now, nobody has expressed opposition, and in particular, the residents at 8 Essex Road are supporting this application, and the neighbors right across on the other side of what I call the driveway, but is Essex Road, are also supporting it. So, there isn't anybody in the neighborhood who seems to be concerned about it. I think it's important to understand that right now the house, it's an attractive center entrance colonial, but it only has one bathroom. It has a very small back area, a small kitchen, no really good place to sit, no family room. And at this point, the family is able to afford to build an addition, and they really feel that they need the extra living space in their house. They really need the extra bathroom, and they would like the extra space for the bedroom and the rest of what they're proposing. In order to build this addition, they have to remove their garage, which is something they're not happy to have to do. But it relates to the topography of the lot, the reason for removing the garage, so it's important to understand since this is a variance application. The lot is not level. It's level where the house is, but in the rear, it starts to go up in a fairly steep incline. I don't know exactly what the angle is, and it's all rock. So when I first met with them, we went out and looked at the garage because they were really trying to figure out whether they could keep the garage or even attach it to the house. And there's no way to even keep a garage in back of the house. The addition basically is going to substitute for some of the area where the garage is now. And that's, there's a lot there, but it's unusable space. You can't even sit, and you certainly can't build anything. And because it's rock, it's really difficult to even clear it out in any way to make it useful. So there are really two reasons that might justify the grant of a variance in this case. One is that the corner lot clearance requirement is technically applicable to this lot, but since there's no real two-way traffic at this location, the reason for the extra space and the extra clearance is not so clear, and that would be a reason to provide an exception. And the other reason is that the lot is not a normal lot. It's a rocky lot with a sharp rise in the rear. We didn't bring a photo of that. We have something on a cell phone we can show you, but we know that since you can't put that in your record, you probably can't accept it. So I'd rather just describe it to you. But I have seen the backyard and seen how steep and rocky it is, and I'm familiar with the topography because I live in the neighborhood. So we feel, I guess the other point I want to make clear is that although the lot is a pre-existing non-conforming lot, the house is not. The house was built in 1940, and at that time, the clearance, the required setback would have been 20 feet, at least as far as we can determine, but the house was permitted to be built at 14.6 feet. And the new addition would line up with the existing sideline of the house right now at 14.6 feet.
Any questions, Mr. House?
The usual. I take it the addition will be built to conform with the existing exterior of the property, and what you intend it to be? Is it shingled? I didn't see the photo. What's the current exterior of the house?
Cedar shingle painted? Right now, it's gray. I don't know whether they're planning to repaint the
The
house.
plan is to keep it exactly the way it is. There will be no change in the appearance.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay, Mr. Gray?
Not really, just, is it 14.6 or 14.3? Only because I just want to make sure that what I wrote down was, I think the ad had one, not that it matters really, but just in case.
Well, I'd have to go back to the...
Yeah, the plot plan says 14.3.
3, I think.
I have 14.3 in my letter.
Yep.
And the application says 14.3.
Okay. So then it's 14.3, I just misspoke.
That's fine.
Okay.
I don't have any other questions.
Is anyone here this evening that has any questions of the applicant or Mrs. McKettrick? Anyone that would like to speak in support of the application? Or conversely, anyone want to speak in opposition to the application? Okay, anything else you want to say, Mrs. McKettrick, or the applicant?
I don't. Sort of an unusual application because I actually received mailed notice of this, which I sent to myself, basically. So that I actually, I live that close, and it's that close in the neighborhood where...
I have no excuse for not being here tonight.
Exactly. So I do support the application as someone who's an abutter of an abutter within 300 feet. I've seen this property for many years, and I think it's a great idea to add the extra space, and it will improve the appearance of the house. It's going to make it much more livable for the applicant, so I'd appreciate it if you consider granting the request.
When we, not to be presumptuous about what my fellow members will vote here tonight, but if we were to approve this, we typically like to have some kind of a set of plans that we tie the approval to. Is what's going to be built substantially going to conform with this elevation, that the one sheet of elevations that you gave to us?
Do you have additional
Yes, I do have
sheets?
additional sheets. The plan is to make it conform.
To what you've given to us?
Yes.
So it'll look substantially like it appears on this single sheet?
That's the plan.
Okay. And I mean, I ask you that because we probably would say in the decision, in substantial conformity with a plan dated December 2nd, 2013, and I don't want to do that if you're uncomfortable with that.
No, that'll be fine.
Okay. Okay. And again, I don't mean to presume on my fellow members. Well, if there's nothing further to add, I would move to close the public hearing and to begin the deliberation process. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
Under the open meeting law, it's our obligation and duty to deliberate with respect to matters of this nature in open public session. And having closed the public hearing, that's exactly what we'll do. I can lead off by saying that this seems to be a meritorious application. I understand the specific issues and unique issues that relate to this parcel in a number of different ways. And so I would be inclined to vote in favor of the application, subject only to the condition, the usual conditions, and the condition that it substantially conform, at least with respect to elevations, to the plan that was presented to us this evening. Mr. Ralph?
I agree. I think that the proposed addition, as Mrs. McKettrick indicated, will continue along the lines of the existing structure, so it won't further encroach towards Essex Road, and I think we heard enough about the nature of Essex Road. I tried to go through it, and I realized I was going into someone's driveway. So, So I think the application has merit. Thank you for the presentation and for being here tonight, and I too would be inclined to vote in favor of granting the requested variance.
Mr. Graff?
I agree with my colleagues. I too have gone down Essex Road looking for the end of it and have probably turned around in your driveway. And I can certainly attest to having lived not too far away for 10 years, that the topography is odd in that part of town. I could certainly see why, that the lot doesn't help with the placement of the addition. So I'd be inclined to vote for it.
Okay, well, I will move formally then to approve the variance application. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the vote is unanimous, as it must be. So we will prepare a written decision, which we are required to do, and then we file it with the town clerk. Once we do that, even though there's been nobody here this evening to oppose this, there's a 20-day appeal period, and you cannot pull a building permit until that appeal period passes. Once that period passes, you can be in touch with the building inspector, and he can tell you the things you need to do going forward. So I realize that it's early April, and you'd probably like to get this underway this summer. So I will volunteer to write this decision just as quickly as I can. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your addition.
Thank you very much.
After doing the 40B, this seems like such a breeze. Doing this. This is nothing. Just take a moment here and just look at this one.
What's next? Garage.
Rebuilding and expanding the garage, right?
Right,
Yeah. I don't know if you had a chance to look at this one.
I haven't.
It's framed as a request for a variance, but I think it reads better as a special permit. What they're doing is they're expanding on an pre-existing non-conforming structure, and it read more like a section 4 special permit, but that's not how it's before us.
No.
The product that's a violation of those sections and requires a variance.
Well, let's open the hearing and see what people have to say.
I think Mrs. McKettrick's still here. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to call to order the second hearing of the evening, which is scheduled at 7:45. This is on the application of Catherine Leonti, dated February 18, 2015, on file with the board for a variance from the terms of section 63 and section 6C2 of chapter 10 of the general bylaws of the town of Milton, so as to be allowed to reconstruct and expand a single-story detached garage at the rear of the single-family home located at 59 Harold Street, Milton, which is located in the Residence C district. The applicants propose a garage that would be 14 feet wide and 22 feet deep. The garage would have a left side setback of 2.2 feet and a rear setback of 2 feet. The Milton zoning bylaw requires that no building of accessory use shall be erected or maintained within 8 feet of the rear. And section 62 requires that no building of accessory use shall be erected or maintained within 8 feet of a side lot line. We have before us, as part of the record, the application dated February 18, 2015. We have a letter of denial of a building permit from Milton Building Commissioner Joseph Prondak, dated January 13, 2015. We have an addition plan of a single sheet prepared by Michael P. Antonino, apparently showing the location of the proposed garage. There's a letter to Mr. Prondak from the applicant. It's undated, which explains in essence the application. We have a one-page sheet that looks to show sort of the elevation of the proposed garage. It's a handwritten sheet that shows that elevation. We have a letter from Mrs. McKettrick, who's doing double duty here tonight, dated February 12th, 2015. And we have a second, actually, copy of that same Mr. Antonino plan that has some additional information apparently added to it, entitled Proposed Garage Extension. And I think that is the entirety of the public record. So, as I indicated earlier this evening, it's our practice to have the applicant or the applicant's representatives present their variance application to the board. When that is completed, we invite people in the audience, if they have questions about any of the specifics of the application, to do so. We ask for anyone who speaks in opposition or in support of the application also to speak once the applicant has made the presentation. So with that preface, Mr. McKettrick, I invite you and your clients to come forward and talk to us a bit about this application.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Mary McKettrick, here to represent Catherine Leonti and Tom Garofalo. Catherine is the applicant. They are married, and they live in the house next to the garage.
Okay.
And I do have a little bit of additional information for you tonight. A letter from some neighbors signed supporting the application. We have some renderings. These are actually visual depictions for you to look at while we're speaking, that show you the house, the garage. We'll have to explain these as you look at them. Mr. Garofalo will do that. And this is a supplementary letter with another copy of that letter from the neighbors. That's basically what I plan to speak about tonight. I don't plan to, speak for great length, even though the memo is 4 pages long, because there is an issue of law that I think I'd like the board to think about. You don't necessarily have to decide it tonight for this case, but the issue comes up in this case. So I wrote a little bit longer memo to explain that.
Okay.
Okay.
Nick?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking through the file for it. There it is.
So this is another very small lot, less than 5,000 square feet. It has a bungalow style house on it, which has been in the process, at least, of being very nicely renovated inside. I saw the inside of the house when I first met the applicants. And the problem they came to me with was that they have a garage on the property that they can't really use because it's so small. But the lot is small, and there's very little extra space to make the garage larger. Any increase in the size of the garage brings into play this issue of the existing side of the garage, which is slightly over 2 feet from the side lot line, slightly over 2 feet from the rear lot line. So it is non-conforming as to setbacks. The lot is non-conforming as to size. The garage structure is only 1 story, so the height is conforming. The lot coverage of the garage and the house is conforming at present, and it will be conforming if this proposal is approved, even though the garage will be enlarged. So the proposal is to increase the footprint of the garage going forward and going into the inside part of the lot. So there will be the garage will not be brought any closer to the lot line, although it will be difficult to do that because it's already so close. It will be extended, however, which is an intensification of the current nonconformity because it will now be a longer line of wall along each lot line with the neighbors. So the question then that comes up in this case is, As the building commissioner states in his letter, he references this as a variance. And my question to you is whether this should be a special permit rather than a variance. So I've written you a memorandum. I looked at the it's not that exciting, a memorandum.
A message.
I reviewed the way our Section 4A of our bylaw is currently written. That's the section of our bylaw that talks about valid pre-existing non-conforming structures and uses. And I also reviewed state law at Chapter 48, Section 6, and I did some research on cases, both older ones and more recent cases, that look at the issue of what kind of permission is required and when can it be allowed by a Board of Appeal to increase a nonconformity for a nonconforming structure. The state law provides a certain type of protection for residential structures under certain circumstances, and if the nonconformity of a residential structure is intensified, the cases indicate that a special permit has to be granted to allow that. But state law does provide for that permission to be granted through a special permit process. In the state Chapter 48, Section 6, there is no provision protecting accessory structures. But it is possible for a local bylaw to provide additional protection that's not provided by the state law. What a local bylaw cannot do is it cannot reduce the protection afforded by the state statute. So in one of the cases I provided, for example, there's a discussion of a local bylaw that required a variance rather than a special permit to increase a nonconformity in a residential structure. And I think it was the appeals court said that, well, you only need a special permit, you don't need a variance. The local municipality can't require a stricter standard than the state statute does for something that's already protected. Conversely, there are other cases, though, and there are a lot of different cases of this nature that say that a local bylaw can provide additional protection if the town or city so desires. And that's what Milton has done, because what Milton has done is, in our Section 4, we do allow reconstruction, extension, and replacement of non-conforming pre-existing valid non-conforming pre-existing accessory structures, as well as for residential structures. So our bylaw goes further than the state law in terms of protecting these structures. And our bylaw calls for the Board of Appeals to grant a special permit in those cases. What you cannot do is you cannot grant a special permit if there's a new nonconformity. So if this application had created a situation where too much of the lot was taken up with structures, that would be a new nonconformity, and we would have to apply for a variance. But that's not true in this case. So my argument to you would be that this should be a special permit, not a variance. Now, I understand that this is a question for the building commissioner. He's not sure. I've talked to him about it. He's asked town council for some more advice. So I'm not asking you to do anything revolutionary here. I'm applying for both. So if you would like to grant a variance to the applicants, they would gratefully accept it. They would just like to be able to increase the size of their garage. As far as the merits of the application go in particular, I just want to make the point that after this winter, as I said in my memo, I think everyone recognizes that it's very important to have a garage, if it's at all possible. Because in order to get cars off the street and off your driveway to clear snow, you have to have some place to put them. And right now, the applicants don't have a space that's large enough to comfortably park their car in their current garage. They need a larger garage. It's just going to be a one-car garage after it's expanded, but will be a better size. It'll be easier to get into it. The roof line is being increased by 2 feet. I think in my application I said that it wasn't. That wasn't correct. I just didn't understand what they were planning to do. But it will still be 1 story. It will still be within the building zoning code. So I think that's the hardship argument for allowing this, is that You really need a place to park if you can possibly find it. It's a benefit to the neighbors, a benefit to the town, certainly a benefit to the applicants to have a garage that they can use. In other respects, I just would say this lot is typical of this neighborhood. It's probably smaller than some, but there are many other lots that are equally small, very similar to the application that I just brought to you. These lots were laid out many years ago. They're tiny. In many ways, they can be difficult to develop according to what people expect in their houses today, but these applicants have done a beautiful job with this house. And I just wish I could take you on a little visit, as I had when they came to me to say that they will do a good job. They will make a very attractive improvement to the garage. It will match the house architecturally, and the work will be quality work. And I believe, are you going to be doing the construction, or?
Free labor. Yep. It's me.
Mr. Garofalo will do the construction.
Let me know when you're available.
We don't live together.
You're offering free labor.
Can you tell me, I was intrigued by this, I must admit, I'm
It's an aerial shot.
down on top of the house,
Yeah,
okay, all
yeah.
right.
Roof line.
I see. Cool.
I didn't
So
know that was.
so just to make sure the record's clear, we've been given this evening 6 pages of sort of visuals from
Visual aids.
from a variety of directions showing what the new garage would look like and the new roof line, and they're very helpful. The other thing that was presented to us this evening, in addition to Mrs. McKettrick's memo, which I have not had a chance to read, much less to comprehend, dated March 17, 2015, we've also had a letter signed by 4 of the neighbors who live respectively at 63 Harold, 69 Harold, 66 Harold, and 62 Harold. And I can't really make, the first one looks like somebody named Grimes. I can't make out the other 3 names, but we have the addresses of the people. And I take it there's no one in the neighborhood that's expressed any opposition to this proposal. Just out of curiosity, do you think your analysis changes at all because it's a non-conforming lot? It doesn't meet the 5,000 square foot. I'm just thinking of the Bransford case of Martha's Vineyard where you've increasing the non-conformity of the lot. And I know it's lot versus structure, but that was the issue in Bransford, and the SJC surprised all of us with the decision that they came down with. But that's really neither here nor there. But the only question I have is that maybe you want to stick with the variance because of that decision.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with that decision, and I have to tell you, there's a lot to look at for me for this one.
Right.
From many years ago, I thought it was a lot simpler. It's not so simple now because of some of the decisions. We're satisfied with whatever criteria you want to apply. My point is simply that for the Board of Appeals in general to be thinking about this and to understand that there are all kinds of distinctions. If it's a new nonconformity, it's one thing. If it's a house, what does the local bylaw say versus what does the state law say? And what is the particular change that you're talking about, and how much how much change is being introduced by the proposal? I couldn't find a case on an accessory structure other than a Superior Court case. It was quite complex, and it was a very interesting case where they were doing a lot with the garage, including changing the use. And in the end, I think it was sent back to the Board of Appeals. So maybe there'll be another case that will come along that will make this clearer. And in the meantime, it's just something to think about, and that's why I wrote as much as I did to sort of get the
I
discussion
appreciate
going.
that. It's a mantra that I've expressed over the years, because I think we struggle sometimes with the variance standard when we don't have to. But in any event, it just seems to me that having applied for it, given that Bransford issue, I would probably be inclined to treat it as a variance. I think you probably get greater protection if we do, although if somebody appealed it, I suppose, then you have a different issue. Anyone else have any questions, Mr. Ellis?
No, the only thing I'd add to that, and maybe a point of clarification first. As proposed, there would be no other nonconformity being created, right?
Correct.
So that's, I think, would be one of the distinguishing
Right.
factors.
No new
from the-
nonconformity.
Right.
Right.
But also, I think this was advertised as a request for a variance, so all things considered, I would agree that's probably the lines we should proceed on.
Mr. Gray?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Anyone in the audience have any questions or opposition or support
Oh,
for this application?
I'm sorry, I thought we were just talking about the legal issue.
Okay,
I have
sure,
one
I'm
more
sorry.
question. I wanted to identify the neighbors who signed this relative to the location of the garage. But who is the closest to, so looking at the proposed plan,
So the closest would be Frank Grimes, so he is the neighbor directly to the right, so he would kind of be impacted the most. I mean, the garage, there's already a garage there, but he would have the most impact. with
I'm
that.
sorry, but we can't read this, is that the
That's the
60
first.
That's the first one, okay.
Yeah, the
first one.
first one.
Yeah.
And directly in back of you, who would that be?
So I actually spoke verbally with him. I haven't had a chance to, to get him to sign it. He's a little reclusive sometimes, so. But I
Did he-
did,
he
I
didn't
did catch a
express
chance.
opposition, I
Yeah, I
think.
did have a chance to
Yeah.
talk with him. And then other than that, it's the neighbor in the front, and the neighbor to the right of the neighbor in the front as well. So basically, everybody that would have a
People who
view
would
of the
see it.
garage.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
Anyone in the audience have any questions or opposition or support for the application? Okay, there being nothing else, Mrs. McCutcheon, did you want to add anything? I don't want to cut you off.
I don't. I think I've had a chance to cover everything I wanted to.
Okay, and
Thank you.
and you've given us a lot of written support for the application. So I'm going to vote, I'm going to ask my fellow members if they'd like to close the public hearing and also move. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye. I think that's the chairman's prerogative, though.
I think we should vote. I think we should vote. This is a democratic process that we have here. So, deliberation purposes, I have little to add to what we've already said. I think it's a meritorious application. I fully understand why it's necessary. Because of that Braesford issue, I would be inclined to continue to treat this as a variance, and I would be inclined to vote in favor of the application. Nick?
I second your comments, and knowing the benefits of having a garage big enough to put your car in, plus maybe a lawnmower and hopefully a snow blower, I would, in light of the fact that you'll help your neighbors getting a car off the street, I think I'd be in favor of not voting for it.
Mr. Strauss?
I agree with my colleagues, I'd be inclined to vote in favor of the application.
Okay. Well, let's take a formal vote. All those in favor of granting the requested variance relief, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous decision. Congratulations on your variance. As you may have heard at the prior hearing, we do a written decision. We're required to do so. We file it with the town clerk. That triggers a 20-day appeal period. And then until that appeal period passes, you cannot get a building permit. Once that happens, you'll be in touch, I'm sure, with Mr. Prondak, and he'll tell you exactly the steps you need to pursue. So good luck with your addition.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
We're moving right through this.
This is refreshing, right? Red line.
Guess we're okay.
Yep.
You guys ready to go? Yep. Okay, our third public hearing of the evening, I'm going to call it to order. It was scheduled for 8 p.m. It's about 10 after 8 right now, so we're doing pretty well. This is on the application of Scott Johnson, dated February 24, 2015, for a special permit from the terms of Section 3 and Section 4 of the zoning bylaw, so as to be allowed to repair, alter, reconstruct a three-family home situated at 54 Central Avenue. Records indicate that this building has been used as a three-family use since its original construction. The home suffered substantial fire damage on July 8, 2014. The property lies in a Residence C district. It's considered a pre-existing non-conforming structure with respect to Section 3 of the bylaw, whereas three-family structures are not currently a permitted use in any zoning district. Section 4 of the Milton bylaw, non-conforming uses of buildings and land, provides that any reconstruction or alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming structure other than a single one or two-family home be authorized by the Board of Appeals in the form of a special permit. The application package consists of the application itself, which is dated February 24, 2015, a letter to Attorney Vincent O'Brien from the building inspector, dated January 30, 2015. There are some photographs, aerial photographs dated July 15, 2015, apparently showing the south and north side of the building. There are some plans. These out here. Set of plans that shows existing first, second, and third floor plans, as well as proposed first, second, and third floor plans. There is a sketch plan that apparently shows the existing building. It's not dated, and I don't know who prepared it, but it shows the existing building. There's some additional plans, sheets A1, A2, A3, A4, dated February 12, 2015, showing some elevations and some floor plans for the first, second, and third floors. There is a copy of a deed, dated May 23rd, 1966, apparently conveying the property in question at 54 Central Avenue. There's an appraisal report dated July 6, 2014, prepared by Mr. Edward T. Broderick, Jr. And there's a site plan, apparently dated October 26, 1925. I guess this is the actual plan that I had seen a copy of before, showing the subject location. So there's a fair amount of material that's within the public record at this point. I assume you fellows are here to speak for the applicant this evening?
My name is Attorney Vincent O'Brien.
Good evening, Mr. O'Brien.
Scott Johnson. And we did provide the materials, primarily the site plan and the elevation plans show that the site plan from 1995, October 26, 1995, is identical to the footprint essentially that we have now. In essence, there was a fire at the back of the building. We just want to rebuild. There's no extension or enlargement of the structure or change in its use. It is a valid pre-existing non-conforming structure built in 1924. And that's noted both in at the Board of Appeal, Assessor's Office, and in the building inspector's letter. Under your rules and regulations, it specifically says that if it's not a one or two family home, we need to present to you our application for a special permit and present to you that it's not substantially increasing any detriment or injurious effect on the neighborhood to the use of the building. In light of the fact that the use is identical and the building is staying essentially exactly the same footprint, we would submit that it is not injurious. And in fact, to some degree, the building will be better in that the stairs inside were built back in the 20s. They have some of those pie-shaped landings. We're going to straighten those out so they come to code. The rear of the building, a lot of the sill area doesn't have pressure-treated wood. We'll be replacing that. And that's why we provided the structural engineer's report to show some of the structural elements we'll be adding, is additionally upgrading other utilities in that area of the building.
Okay. I'm just trying to catch up on some of the reading here. Mr. Ellis, if you have any questions?
So you said the fire was in the back of the building.
Back of the back end of the building.
Are you proposing to raise it and rebuild it, or?
No, just rebuilt. If you look at the structural report, some of the back porch areas have to be taken down, but basically, if you look at the structural report, a lot of it is replacing, and it's a sort of a on-site, case-by-case, what needs to be replaced and what doesn't, as far as 2x4s, some have to be sistered, some have to be replaced. He made some suggestions on reinforcing where the framing meets the roof. The exterior siding needs to be replaced. I would say the only substantive change is the structure of the stairs, which, I don't know if you recall the old stairs when we were kids, you go down and kind of they'd turn.
Now have a landing.
Now you have a landing to be squared up. But the footprint itself is identical. The exterior finish will be identical. If you look at the front of the building, you probably wouldn't even know it had a fire. And that's why we provided the appraisal. It shows pictures of the building. It's, other than knowing there's a fire, you probably wouldn't be aware of it. And by the time we're done, it'll look like it did back in June.
You heard the question the chairman asked the other applicant. We usually tie our decisions to plans submitted to the board.
Yes.
This
This would be the plan that we'd be going with. All the interior elements that are shown on the plan, those aren't changing. The only thing that's really changing is following the structural engineer's report to reframe the areas that need to be reframed and really rebuild the interior staircase. So it'll be identical to the plan presented.
It's okay.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Gray?
I don't think I have any questions.
I was just a little confused, Mr. O'Brien. Were you seeking relief under two sections of the zoning bylaw? 3 and 4? Or is it just under 4? It looks like the application is under 4.
The advertising says 3 and 4.
Okay. And Mr. Prondak letter addresses 3 and 4.
I think that's why, because he mentioned both. I just can find his letter, hold on a second.
Because, I mean, it's also a pre-existing non-conforming use as well as a structure, isn't it?
Right, it is a pre-existing non-conforming use and a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
Except that section 4 addresses both, right?
I believe so.
No, it does. I have a
Yeah.
copy in front of me.
And are you satisfied that for the use aspect of this, that a special permit is sufficient?
I believe it is. We're not changing the use.
Okay.
Yeah, as I read section 4, it seems to say, and I'm reading.
It says uses
Valid
and/or,
pre-existing non-conforming structures or uses may be extended, altered, reconstructed, or replaced upon the granting of a special permit.
Okay,
and the finding's not detrimental or injurious.
Right, that's their standard.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so it's section 4 of the law.
I believe so, because
So-
it addresses
so-
both
okay,
use
so-
and
Yeah.
the physical structure.
I was confused only because of Mr. Prondak's letter where he talks about section 3 and section 4, but I think it seems to me that section 4 is sufficient for both things, use and building,
I believe that's right.
use and structure.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Mr. Gray, do you have any questions?
No. So it's gonna be, well, it's gonna be pretty much the same from the exterior as it is
Same,
now.
identical, right? It's just changing the interiors.
Fixing
and
up the
Fixing it
interior,
up.
fixing the fire damage.
It seems pretty straightforward and if it were 1 or 2 family, it would
Yeah.
just be a building permit, but the building inspector's, is required, it's part of your statute, so it's
And it
required.
makes sense to keep it at 3 and not go to 2?
I think so, yeah. And that's the way it's designed, that's the way it's set up.
And so you would.
It's actually an attractive building. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
good-looking
I-
building. Yeah.
Drive by it all. I seem to live everywhere.
You're
now.
very, yeah.
I live close to this house now, so, I mean, half a mile away. Whatever, it's on the way to the Ashmont tea station.
The more hearings I sit on with Mr. Gray, the more I realize he lives.
I've been in town a
Man
little
about town.
bit, moved around a little bit, sorry.
Did you say Ashmont Discount?
Ashmont tea station.
Oh, T-State.
He's ubiquitous.
Yeah.
So that you will build this in accordance with this set of plans and elevations, A1 through A4?
Yes, sir, exactly.
And it
I mean,
doesn't-
we keep saying building, and I guess I'm trying to
really not
understand
building.
the nature of the work that you're
It's really not
proposing.
building, it's, if you look at the structural report, which I provided, it basically says, rebuild the staircase interior to meet code, any of the sill work, pressure-treated lumber to meet code,
All
and
interior.
all interior.
So are you touching the exterior of the property?
It has to be, some of it has to be re-sided, Some 2x4s and those sorts of things have to be replaced in the exterior, or what he says in his report, sistered for additional support. He talks about some of the repair work just involves a fire
If you could
coating.
guide me, the document that you're referring to, which one is?
There is it's Renee Munier.
Got it. Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep.
He talks about, as you go through the process, some of the shingles and sheathing will have to be
Right.
replaced. Studs will be evaluated and replaced according to the evaluation. He does mention that some of it can have I don't understand, I've never heard of, but a smoke coating, it's fine, but just to kill the smell of the smoke. But there's not overwhelming structural issues, other than his suggestion to rebuild the stairs according to code, which is all
Right,
interior.
and as you know, our opinion will explicitly state that we're not opining on the compliance with the code at all.
I understand that.
That's
Right.
all. So I was gonna ask if you've had any input or discussions with neighbors, but it sounds like you're not doing much to the exterior.
No.
I've actually walked around, talked to the neighbors.
Okay.
I've owned the house since 1989. And nobody had any objections at all to it. And really, when you look at the back of the house, the fascia boards, the shingles are what were burnt, and there's not even char on a lot of the fascia boards. So that's basically what's the rebuilding or the repair.
You could call it cosmetic, but it's slightly more than that.
Yeah,
It's currently unoccupied,
Right.
correct,
right? And so it's, as I recall, it's boarded up at the moment mostly.
correct.
And so this project would be able to restore it, I mean, actually put it back in use, get rid of the boards on the outside.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of, right, I mean, I'm stating the obvious, but to just want to get it,
Same exact color, shakes. Those, by the way, those cost me a fortune. I didn't have to get, I wanted the house to be kept in character.
yep.
I have appreciation for antiquity. I live in a very old house in Hillside Street too, so it's sort of like, I wanted to improve the neighborhood as opposed to.
Sure, and obviously, if this special permit wasn't granted, then the building's going to remain, you know,
I don't know what we're doing.
yeah, exactly, it's going to
Plan B,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a plan B, but it will
We don't know what that
delay,
is,
and you don't
right.
know what it is, and this isn't making it any more,
We keep it would,
more units or more people
More
living
area,
there than it
nothing.
is currently. Okay. But it looks like you're moving the walls around a little bit on the inside, maybe where
in the rear of the
damage-
building, right.
Yeah,
To accommodate the stairway
inside,
primarily. right.
yeah.
Just one last question, and I promise it's the last one. It describes a three-family structure. How many living units actually exist in this?
It was built as a three-family structure.
And it continues to be?
Correct. Has been.
And will continue to be upon?
Correct.
Okay. No further questions.
Okay. Is there anyone here this evening who has any questions, wants to speak in opposition or in support of the application? Unless Mrs. McKetrick wants to speak on this one as well.
She's done a good job, I wouldn't
I
mind.
I don't see anyone else here this evening, so the answer to that is no. So I guess we'll close the public hearing. Everyone in favor of closing the public hearing? Great.
Aye.
Again, that seems like a fairly innocuous request. I think it's a great advantage to getting that back unboarded and being productive and being used. So I think that not only is there no detriment associated with this application, I think there's a lot of positive benefits. So I would be inclined to vote in favor of granting the requested special permit relief under section 4. Mr. Ellis?
I agree. Clearly, the standard is whether or not this will substantially increase any detrimental or injurious effect on the neighborhood. I see none. On the contrary, as the chairman said, I think this will improve, bring the property back to use, and cure what's currently kind of an eyesore. So I'd be inclined to vote in favor.
I completely agree. There's certainly enough eyesores sort of down, a little bit further down Central Avenue, if you know where I mean.
I know what you mean.
Falling in, that kind of thing, near the T-stop.
They're working on that.
They're working on it, I hear.
Yeah.
And working on it. So anything we can do, I think, to sort of get this property back up and running and get you out from underneath the fire damage that you've had. It's certain, especially in the light of the fact that there's you know, no opposition in the neighborhood. Seems fairly straightforward to me.
Great, so all those in favor of granting the request of relief?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Okay, well,
Thank you very much,
we
gentlemen.
will write a decision, 20-day, 20-day appeal
Congratulations.
period after we file with the town clerk, and then you can coordinate with the building commissioner
20 days on the appeal period?
from the time that
After
it's
the- after
filed
the
with the
decision.
town clerk.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Congratulations and good
Bill,
luck.
taking this one now?
Appreciate it.
Bring it on.
Alrighty then.
The only thing worse than the Bransford case is the Yorkland case.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Okay, take
Thank you.
care.
Take care.
He's sending a text to Diane.
Diane calling and they got calling.